Welcome back to the Commanders Declassified podcast, your home for all things Washington Commanders. We're jumping into our Declassified series where we're taking you behind the scenes, behind the curtains, deep dives into our draft picks. And tonight we're going to start with our seventh round pick, Jacory Croskey-Merritt. I think you guys are going to absolutely love this guy, and we're going to break him down all the way up and all the way back down for you. So we did some research on them. We're going to bring it to you. Make sure you're locked in. Subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. And hopefully you enjoy this episode. All right. Jacory Merritt declassified. Here we go. All right. Now, an intro to who is Jacory Croskey-Merritt. The first thing to know is he's 24 years old and he's from Alabama, not the college or university. He's from Montgomery, Alabama. He was a zero-star recruit coming out of school. Now, that's crazy, right? Somebody who got drafted in the NFL was a zero-star recruit coming out of high school, which tells you about his work ethic and his commitment to overcome that to become a drafted player. Now, he goes by the name of Bill, right? And he even has a diamond pendant that says Bill on it. And you're like, wait, his name is Jacory. Why does he go by Bill? Well, he had a bald head as a kid, and as kids in the South can do, they got on him pretty good about it, and they were saying that he looked like Little Bill. And he's kind of ran with it ever since, which is kind of an amazing story. In terms of his hobbies, let me first say this: Commanders fans, he is humble and just an all-around great kid. I think you guys are just going to love him for that fact. He's going to fit nicely with Jaden Daniels' personality as well. But some of the things that he wants to learn to do when he gets his NFL money, he really wants to learn how to cook. I was watching a video, an interview he did, and he talked about one of the things that he wants to do is to really learn how to prepare higher level foods, right? Like he said, he can cook your basics, but he really wants to get into cooking. So good for him on that. Now, a little bit of data on him, and I think Eric and Mike are going to get this a little bit more, but one thing that stood out to me when I was looking at him was like, this guy had a 41.5-inch vertical jump. Do you know how insane that is? That's NBA level jumps, hops right there, which I just thought was absolutely impressive as a running back. That really illustrates explosiveness. Eric, I'll save the rest for you there. Music-wise, a lot of you guys are going to relate to this. Some of you won't. His favorite artists are NBA YoungBoy, Lil Baby, and Future, which is pretty common for 24-year-olds. Eric, I see you nodding your head. I know they're in your MP3 player now.
My MP3 player.
Yeah, right.
It's actually they're in my Walkman. Yeah.
So the last really important piece of information I had was that overall in the draft, he was ranked in the 30s in terms of running back prospects. But he had 6 top 30 visits. And then you start breaking down the teams that he had top 30 visits for: the Patriots, the Vikings, the Chiefs. These are organizations that really value the running back position. And I think the fact that he was on those visits really speaks to his overall potential. Now, as you guys know, he didn't play but one game last year. That was due to an eligibility concern that I think the NCAA screwed up, honestly. It happened to be that he had it in his redshirt freshman year. He gave his number to somebody else. The NCAA said, no, well, your number had some stats, so now you can't play. And they made him ineligible at Arizona, which is just an absolute joke. But otherwise, this kid is just going to be, I can already tell, a fan favorite very, very, very quickly. But let's dive deeper into his running style and his system fits. And for that, I'm going to turn it over to Mike. Take it away, Mike.
So his running style, honestly, it's not that hard to decipher or break down. He reminds me of like a professional running back. Like it's hard to like narrow it down to one person specifically, but for some reason, the two running backs that came to my mind, it was like you take 3/4 of Bucky Irvin and you take like 3/4 of Ryan Terrain, you just smash them together, and that's Jacory Croskey-Merritt, man. Like he's shifty. He's very shifty. He's very quick. He's very explosive, but he's not as quick, shifty, or as explosive as Bucky Irving. But he's physical. He's physical, and he runs high. And every time I think of a running back that runs high, I can't think of none other than Ryan Terrain, man. That's a very high running back. Even though he's not that tall, I'm talking about Bill Merritt. He's not that tall. He still runs high for a running back. The number 5 was throwing me off because it kept, like, especially when he was at New Mexico, I'm sorry, from wearing the number 5, it was throwing me off because I'm like, he's giving me Bush vibes at times too. Like it's really crazy. But like I said in the beginning, that patience, it reminds me of Le'Veon Bell. Like maybe not as extreme with the patience, but he's definitely not hitting the hole quickly or hitting or trying to force his way through a gap. There's a patience. He's waiting for something to happen. And when you think of that, waiting, patience, explosive, we heard those words before as Washington football fans. And when we think of those words when they're running back, I can't think of none other than Shanahan's, Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan's. And when you think of those coaches, you think of the zone running scheme. Who ran the zone running scheme really well last year? The Washington Commanders. So I feel like it's a good fit because even though they ran zone running plays the 5th least in the league, they were the most efficient at it. And I think it's because of Jaden Daniels. And I think if you can put a running back like Jacory Croskey-Merritt in the offense with Jaden Daniels, you'll get some holes to open up that he can find. So I think that running style, it's, how can I say, it's a bit of old school / new school. The physicality with the wiggle. And in a zone running scheme, like Washington should run next season, I think it'll be a perfect fit.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point in terms of like the Kingsbury offense and what they did in the zone last year. It's primarily a gap scheme, but I think you can tweak that given the athletes that you have at the position, given that you already have some of that in your playbook. One of the really important characteristics, I think, with Merritt is that he's really getting a lot of credit for his ability to process what the defense is doing and then react at the second level, right? Which leads to big plays, which I think we're missing. And you talked about patience behind the line of scrimmage, and I think everybody has to know that's different than what you're getting currently with like Brian Robinson Jr. No hate to him, but he will stutter step in the backfield. That's not patience, right? That's indecisiveness. And there's a difference there. Merritt is not that. Merritt is looking and reading where the defenders and reading his blocks and then making a decision and accelerating through the hole. That is a very, very strategic thing to do.
That's a great word to use. He's very decisive. There's no, like you nailed it. Like I have to agree. There's no hesitation. When the hole opens, he sees it. He's gone. There's I can't remember which game, so I apologize. But it may have been his game in Arizona, matter of fact, his lone game in Arizona. New Mexico ran a blitz. They guessed wrong. He recognized it. He was gone. Like as soon as the hole opened up, he hit it out of there. Like you said, Washington, they may we'll talk more about this later, but Robinson and Eckler did have big plays last year. Like let's not say that they didn't. I'm just saying there's a slight difference that I'll touch on later when it comes to Jacory.
Yeah, and I think the last thing on the scheme fits and the styles is he has not been a factor in the passing game at all to this point. Now he had a catch, I believe it was in the Senior Bowl, could have been a different game, in the back of the end zone over the shoulder, which showed you he has potential to do it. But that could be a limiting factor for him early on. All right, Derek, talk to us about college productivity. I want to hear your NFL comps and then your professional outlook for Merritt.
Alrighty then. College-wise, very little college production to speak of, but what little there is, it was impactful. 2023 looks like the only full season that Bill played. That season, he ran for 1,190 yards on 189 carries at a 6.3 yards per attempt with 17 touchdowns. Are you kidding me? 17 touchdowns. That's in one season. Added 72 yards on 7 catches and a touchdown receiving wise. Then in the Big 12, in the 2024 season, he moved over to the Big 12 at Arizona. only played one game. Again, showed big, 13 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown, no catches in that game. Then at the Senior Bowl, I believe he ran for 97 yards on 11 carries with 2 touchdowns. Every time the guy touches the ball, magic happens, basically. There's just not a lot of, I mean, this guy, if he had been able to produce even close to this clip for 2 full seasons, if he'd been able to play the full year last year, he would have been easily a day 2 pick, maybe even a high day 2 pick. You combine that with his pro day results, and this is where I'm going to take umbrage a little bit with what Mike said about him not being as explosive and quick as Bucky Irving. He is way more explosive and quick than Bucky Irving. Again, you got 4.41 40-yard dash, 41.5-inch vertical leap, 10.5-inch or 10.5-foot broad jump, and 17 reps on the bench press. 1.5 second 10-yard split in the 40, which is about as fast as you can get, really. There's not many guys that are that fast. And there was some stats somewhere about he had the fastest deceleration on the run. I don't even know how they calculate that, but basically his ability to stop and start is going to be legit. Now, just to compare Bucky Irving's pro day results, 4.55 in the 40, 29.5-inch vertical jump. So the explosiveness is definitely there when it comes to Jacory. And as far as comps, you guys, I tried to come into this, I tried to be measured with this, but looking at the athleticism, looking at the metrics, it's difficult to do that. This really looks like somebody that might make a difference in the NFL in a big way. So I came up with a couple. I'm going to start out with my low end comp because we're going to level set very low. My low end comp is Lake Seastrunk. Is this dude going to be a preseason all-star that shows up in the fourth quarter and runs wild and everybody freaks out and then you never see him in an NFL game? It's possible. It's very possible. But no, I don't think he's going to be that. But that's my low end comp because he's fast, just like Lake was. We've got video of him running through contact. Very, very unlike Seastrunk. He's not going to be a guy that bounces everything outside and runs out of bounds. This dude is going to be physical. So let me give you some current NFL comps. I've got 2. Three actually. Bucky Irving was one of them. A more realistic one for me right now is Raheem Mostert. Mostert is more of a straight line runner. He's much more of a Shanahan back type of fit. Whereas like the one cut and go, and I think Jacory's got a little more wiggle to him. I think Mostert probably a little faster, but Mostert's about as fast as a running back gets in the NFL. But that's a fair comp for me right now. And Mostert has had good seasons. He's been a very good running back, but he's not really a top. He's maybe a top halfback in the league, and I can see that projecting as a likely outcome for Jacory. Another one. This is Ellie. Keep your hat on, but Jahmyr Gibbs is a guy. If you look at this guy run, look at the moves, look at the motion, look at the ability to run through contact. There's shades of Jahmyr Gibbs there, and that's a lot to put on him, so I'm not going to project that. But you look at that, I'll give you time, Mike. Now I'm going to go old school for my last 2 because these guys really excite me. And the last one, but my first one is a guy who came in as an unheralded running back, and I think this may be why he got a top 30 visit with Kansas City. Jacory, because go look up some old film on Jamal Charles, watch that dude run, and watch compare him to Jacory. Very similar. Again, Jamal probably a little faster. They used him a little more in the passing game and the return game. I don't know if Jacory's going to get all that, especially right away, but I can see why Andy Reid might like him. My final one, and this is the most accurate one in my opinion. I went way back, and this is actually one of the ones when I first saw him run, I was like, gosh, I got to go back and look at this guy. And I went back and looked at him today. I'm going to tell you right now, Jacory Croskey-Merritt is the literal reincarnation of Willie Parker with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Go back and look at Willie Parker, like some old, not the Redskins Willie Parker. Don't worry about that guy. Go look at Pittsburgh's version of Willie Parker and then watch Jacory run. It's like you could cut and paste the jerseys. It's so scary. And again, Willie was a running back who, came in as an undrafted free agent, caught on and made a lot of impact had a few very, very good seasons with Pittsburgh before kind of injuries kind of caught up with him. But man, Jacory and Willie Parker are like 1 and 1A, man. They look just like each other.
Fast Willie Parker.
No, so what I had a Gibbs comp in my mind, but I was like, nah, because
I'll do it.
everybody's gonna say I'm being extra. But there's another running back. You said everybody except for one running back, and I was like, this may be blasphemous to say, but I see it. Even if it's just a little bit, I see it. Terrell Davis.
Okay.
Like, he really reminds me of even if you say poor man, fine, I'll give you that. But the way he was hitting some of these hoes, y'all, I'm telling y'all, I've been watching them for the last couple of days, and I'm like, I see a little TD in here. For the older fans, y'all probably throwing your iPhone, cursing me out right now. The younger fans, like, who the heck is this? All I'm saying, man, Terrell Davis was that dude, and if we can get I can't say a fraction because TD wasn't around for that long.
No.
If we can get similar production, that would be amazing. But yeah, I agree. Those comps, definitely, I'm feeling them for real. Willie Parker and Raheem Mostert were like two running backs I did not think of that perfectly describes them. I feel like.
I feel like so. My comp for him was Isaiah Pacheco with the Chiefs, and I think there's a lot of similarities there, um, especially considering neither contribute in the pass game a whole heck of a lot. But so the Mostert thing is interesting because as you were talking, I'm like, wait, Mostert was way more involved in the pass game. No, he really wasn't. I think his best year he had 30 catches or something like that, which isn't an insane amount for a running back. That's less than 2 a game. I actually, the Gibbs is my, right now, Jahmyr Gibbs is like my 1A running back in the NFL right now. I use him in Madden. I think he's just so good. If we can get anything close to Jahmyr Gibbs, then I am going to be a happy person. But yeah, everything else, I love that information. You're right that the pro day and the combine stuff really illustrate short area quickness and short area burst, right? And that's the differentiator between him and Bucky Irving. Bucky Irving may have better long speed. I don't know. I know Bucky Irving was highly effective with the 4.55 40. I mean, he averaged 5.8 yards a carry. He can get it done. Merritt is much more explosive within that 10-yard range, which I think, plus the offensive line additions, sky is a limit right now. And I hate the hyperbole. I know the Ashburn syndrome. We haven't seen him play, but this guy with the offensive line we have, man, if he gets the opportunity, I think he could really, really, really do some good things. He just has to protect the football.
And that's the key. I don't mean to cut you off, LE, but that's the key. When I'm watching him or any other offensive player like Lane, who we'll talk about in a few weeks, I'm not looking at them at what they're doing on their offense because they won't have their offensive line. They certainly won't have their quarterback. They'll have Jayden Daniels. They'll have an NFL offensive lineman. So I'm thinking about if I put him in these plays that these other running backs have last year, can he replicate or even better what they did in 2024? And so far, halfway through this video, nobody can convince me that he can't.
That's right. And speaking of 2025, 2026, and where he might fit in, and the question is like, is there a potential that he starts in 2025? And what I will say is, I don't think right off the bat. I think there's some legacy plays here with Brian Robinson that you're going to see. I think Robinson's probably going to start the first quarter of the season at least. Robinson usually starts out really hot in a season and then cools way the heck down before it gets cold outside. And I think you're probably going to see something similar this year. Do I think he starts before the end of the season? I do. I think he's 24, right? So like his whole era could be 4 years long, right? His peak is max of 6 years, considering running backs in that 30-year-old age situation. I'm optimistic about him, so I think he overtakes the running back spot by the end of the year, depending on what he does in pass protection, because we still don't know that at all. So if he can pass pro even a little bit, I think he has a really good chance to really play some meaningful snaps. I don't think he'd come in for Eckler's role. I think he's more in the Brian Robinson lead back workhorse role. And of course, how he gels with Jayden Daniels will be a big factor as well. Mike, What does he bring that the other running backs on this roster do not?
So here's the best way I can put it. Robinson, he's physical. He can break long runs, but he might not be who we consider as explosive. When it comes to Eckler, he's explosive. He can break some long runs, but we wouldn't really call him physical, like Ellie just said. He's not really a lead back. I think Croskey-Merritt can be as physical as Robinson, but more explosive. As explosive as Eckler, but much more physical. And I think that alone makes him a more complete back in a way where he may not be the receiving back that Eckler is, but he can come in on third downs. His pass blocking, extremely suspect. Probably the most inconsistent pass blocking I've ever seen from a running back, and maybe the reason he lasted to the 7th round is that bad. But yeah, he can hit home runs consistently. He's using baseball terms, he's more Soto than Ichiro. Like, let's just say that. Like, he's hitting home runs, and he's gonna be more explosive than consistent, if that makes any sense. For every 10-yard run, there may be a -1 yard because he read a hole wrong or something like that. But I feel like he'll be okay on this offense. Whereas Robinson, sometimes, like you said, he disappears. I don't think Croskey-Merritt will disappear as much as Robinson.
Yeah, I could see Merritt being in a closer role where we are
Precisely
up by a touchdown, maybe 10 points late in the game. I could see him just coming in here and just using explosiveness to move the chains and continuing to move the chains. So early in the season. Eric, why do you think Adam Peters picked him over maybe, 15 guys that were ahead of him in pre-draft rankings that did not get picked at all?
Fast. I think speed and explosiveness. He loves those hyper athletic guys, Adam Peters. And Jacory fits the bill there. He's just a very, very, he has some, probably some mid capabilities. I know I read like his hands aren't very big, but things like that where he may not be. Some of the stuff doesn't add up, but the ones that matter in an NFL football game, for the most part, do. And that is your 40 time, your 3-cone split, your 10 yard split, your 3-cone drill, and those are all things that he did very well in. So he's a very fast, very explosive, very agile running back, and that is definitely something that Adam Peters is going to favor over maybe some of those other guys that were still around at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. I was looking at Pacheco's RAS score because you said it. Peters is a RAS guy, like through and through. Pacheco overall was an 8.86 RAS score. Merritt 7.93. A lot of that has to do with a little bit of size. And vertical, Pacheco was only 33. Merritt was a 41.5. Holy crap. Broad jump, Pacheco was 9 feet 1 inches, I believe, or 10 inches, sorry, and Merritt was
10.5.
10.5, yeah. 40 time, 4.37 for Pacheco, 4.45 for Merritt. I think I like my comp of Pacheco. I think there's some similarities there. All right. Let's talk about what we think in terms of his 2025, 2026 projections. Eric, I'm going to throw it right back to you. Give me a stat projection. I want rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, passing or receptions, and receiving touchdowns. What do you got?
Well, that said, all those wonderful projections I made and NFL comps that I made, most of those guys have similar things in common where their rookie years weren't super impressive, and I think we're in the same boat here. I'm not as bullish on his playing time as probably you guys are. I think he's going to get some opportunities, but if I had to guess, I'm going to say 40 carries, 200 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. And maybe 14 or 15 catches for 100, $125, $130 maybe, and maybe a touchdown through the air. I don't see him putting up a ton. I don't think they are as out on Brian Robinson as some other folks are. There were probably some reasons. I mean, the run blocking at the end of last year was atrocious. That had a lot to do with maybe him not producing at the end of the season. To me, Brian Robinson, that is, appears more to be like a one cut and go back in the Shanahan mold maybe than even Jacory is. And I think you're gonna see a lot more of that now that they've got, now that Allegretti's probably going to the bench and Tony and Wiley is probably going to spend a good chunk of the season on the bench. They've got a much more athletic offensive line. I think you'll see a lot more zone running. Again, we saw they were very efficient at it last year, even though they didn't run it a lot. I think they're going to run that a lot more. So barring injury, I think Brian Robinson's going to play a lot, at least this year. I think he's going into the last year of his contract, or it's getting close there. So I don't know what his future is in Washington, but as far as Jacory's stats, yeah, I mean, I think he's gonna put up rookie-like numbers. So I don't think he's gonna have a huge impact, barring injury to the guys in front of him. Now he could, if he shows that he can, handle the passing game and pick up blitzes, he could possibly supplant Austin Eckler at some point in that third down role, provided he can show that he can catch. Because I think he can get a lot if you can get him in space. He can do quite a bit that Eckler gives you. But we'll see. But right now, yeah, I'm going to go 40 carries, 200 yards, and a touchdown on the ground. And let's go 12 catches, 120 yards, and 0 touchdowns through the air.
All right. So Brian Robinson Jr., in the last 7 games, there were only 2 games that he averaged more than 3 yards a carry. It's not including the playoffs. Mike, give me your stat projection for Merritt as a rookie, please. Running, passing, or receiving, and touchdowns for both.
About to say passing, my goodness. So these projections are heavily modest, and they're based on circumstances. I just feel like entering the season, Washington is not playing around. I know I'm kind of going off track a little bit with this, but it was the signing of Matt Gay that made me realize just how in the team is this season, because it wasn't like Zane Gonzalez was trash. I feel like you could enter a training camp with Zane Gonzalez as a kicker and be okay, but you sign Matt Gay, you give him the money that you gave him. It shows me that you're serious, and if you're serious, you're not going to lean too much on a rookie running back in the campaign of a Super Bowl. They will rely on Eckler. They will rely on Robinson. You can't forget about Rodriguez and my man, I forgot his name. McNichols. Yeah, you can't forget about those two. So there's a lot of running backs that's ahead of him right now. And with the season being what it is, I don't predict too much production of him, but he will see the field. And I feel like 79 carries, 340 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 5 catches for 33 yards in the air. I feel like that's a good rookie season for a 3rd/4th running back on the depth chart.
That's fair. Yeah, Rodriguez is interesting because they re-signed him. I think he was really effective, but they never gave him a lot of lead back carries, even when Robinson was struggling last year. So I kind of see him as like a super depth piece. McNichols is kind of more of the Eckler backup, if you will, right? So my projection this year for Merritt. So what I use as my basis is what Eckler rushed for on the ground. 77 carries, 367 yards, 4 touchdowns. That makes sense to me for Merritt. And over a 17-game season, I think that works out pretty well in terms of the number of carries that he could get. I look at it like a highly effective running back, probably gets more carries towards the end of the year. And Eckler is also probably one that you're not going to see back next year either. All things considered, let's not get ahead of ourselves. We love Eckler, but age does matter. From a receiving perspective, I I'm not sure if it's a he can't do it or just hasn't been asked to do it kind of thing. I'm going to project maybe 15 catches. Let's go 80 yards, right? And let's go one red zone touchdown receiving wise. So in total, 5 touchdowns altogether. He contributes in the run game. He's our RB2 to finish the year in terms of yardage. And then, he's in good shape for the following season. So all around, I'm expecting very solid things from Jacory Merritt. Eric, any final thoughts on Merritt?
Jahmyr Gibbs 2.0 coming at you. No, I'm telling you, go watch some Willie Parker highlights and then watch Jacory's. You'll see some stuff, man.
We will do it. Mike, what about it? Any final thoughts on Bill?
Yeah, I heard on Kevin Sheehan's show that there were 33 running backs to get drafted in the 7th round over the last 10 years, I think he said. How many made a roster? 1. That's crazy. But Kevin Sheehan, if you happen to be watching this, I highly doubt that the 33 or the other 32 running backs were in a position that Croskey-Merritt's in, and I expect him to make this roster for sure. Real talk.
That's right, absolutely. Merritt, stay away from SZA. She has a song called Kill Bill. It's a joke. But I think but I'll be here all week. I think Merritt's going to be really effective for us. I think Adam Peters doesn't pick players just for the sake of picking them. A lot of the draft pundits are saying we got the steal of the draft in Merritt. Louis Riddick for one. And I believe he was Phil Yates' favorite pick in the draft, as a matter of fact. But when Peters picks guys, and remember, Peters' specialty when he came here was late in the draft, right? He found a lot of late in the draft gems with San Francisco. So I suspect that Merritt is part of his plans as long as he pans out. So I'm looking forward to everything that this kid's got coming. We're rooting for you, Merritt. This has been Jacory Croskey-Merritt declassified. I hope you learned something. Leave a comment. Let us know what we left out in this episode. Make sure you're subscribed on audio, on all video platforms, Amazon, everything else. Let us know what you thought. Comment committee, Commanders Comment Committee, whatever you want to call yourselves, hit the comments. We'll be watching. Commanders Declassified. We are out of here. Peace.